This is the Let's Roll Podcast with your host, Double R. What up, everybody? It's your host, the Rosenmost, Double R, and this is the Let's Roll Podcast. As you can tell, I'm still feeling under the weather, but it's because I'm recording, and I've recorded 2 episodes. I recorded the COVID one, and now I'm recording this one. But this one's going to be, I want to talk about a couple of different things. I want to touch on the Katt Williams thing and my opinion on it. And I also want to talk about having, not the ability, but being able to see both sides of something. I brought this up before in episodes, how I can see both sides of a situation. And I want to talk about that much more right after this. All right, guys. Let's talk about the Katt Williams situation and how he went on the Shannon Sharp podcast. I think it's called Shade Club. And Katt Williams basically unloaded on all these different people and comedians and stuff. And he claimed that he's just telling the truth. He wants to just get the truth out there. And one of the things that had prompted him to do this is on the same podcast, which is hosted by Shannon Sharp. Shannon was interviewing Ricky Smiley. Ricky Smiley was the comedian that played the Santa Claus in Friday After Next, I think, is the one it's in. Anyway, he played the Santa Claus, and Katt Williams played Money Mike. Well, Smiley said that the Money Mike was his part, and then Katt Williams came in and he was given the part of Money Mike. And so, because of what Ricky Smiley said, Katt felt the need to come on Shannon's podcast and address this issue, with along bringing up other issues that he's had with several other people. Now, I'm not going to go into everything that was said or done on the podcast. What I want to talk about is how my opinion on it is, one, what is the point of you coming on and addressing and tearing into everybody that has either done you wrong, and some people he even tore into or said negative things about didn't necessarily do him wrong, in my opinion. It was just, he's just mad because of their success that they had, I guess. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's more of a, I want to talk about you because you have all this that I didn't get, but at the same hand, he's popular, he's successful, he's got money. He's done well for himself. And all the people he's cutting down have done well for themselves, too. So why do you feel the need that you got to tear into everybody? What is it going to accomplish? I don't care, why like, one of the things he brought up is how some people got success in the way he looks at it out of nowhere. Like, and he mainly used Kevin Hart in this example. He said, well, Kevin put out there that he was on the West Coast and he did all this and he ended up with a show and this and that and the other, and now look at him, blah, blah. Now, he's insinuating that Kevin was, one, handpicked by the cabal or whatever, and that Kevin did what he had to do to get where he needed to be, and insinuated different things about how Kevin got where he was. But he goes, but being Kevin in a documentary on Netflix, by the way, with Chris Rock, they did, this documentary about them doing a comedy tour together. Kevin says in that one that all of his beginnings and stuff was on the East Coast. Well, I'm pretty confident that everything that I've seen about Kevin Hart and watched about Kevin Hart, he's always said he started on the West Coast. I mean the East Coast, not the West Coast. Now, he said he's done, stand-up and stuff on the West Coast too, but I didn't take it as he only did one or the other. But it's besides that. but Katt Williams' point was being, you can't say you did all this over here on the West Coast and do the same thing on the East Coast at the same time. So he was bringing up little things like that and talking about things like that, and he also brought up one of the other one was Cedric the Entertainer, where he talked about how Cedric stole a joke that he had done 2 or 3 years before that, before Cedric started bringing it up. And the only thing I can say about that is the jokes are similar, as in somewhat of a setup, but Cedric's is about taking a spaceship shuttle or whatever to the moon, and how, what it would look like if, a black person was taking a space shuttle up, having the music playing, blah, blah. Katt Williams was about a car. So the only difference is, in necessarily the joke, was Katt was talking about driving a car. Cedric was talking about flying a spaceship or a space shuttle. My thing about comedians, and there's been a lot of things out there about different comedians stealing different jokes. And I watch, one of my favorite comedians is Gary Owens. Owen. And he has said, that that's known to happen in the comedy scene. That, it's almost like an unwritten rule from what he said, is that you don't do, you don't like do your best stuff on stage, or because somebody might take it from you and, and kind of change it for them. So I look at it like you're taking a hit song from an artist, and I take it and I remix it, and I make a version of it that's for me. And I kind of think some jokes are done the same way. You take a concept of a joke and you mix it a little bit to make it your own joke. I understand being upset that you took a joke, but even in Katt Williams' story about this particular joke, he said that they came to him, Cedric and even Steve Harvey, I think, did a similar joke about it, or a similar joke, and they both came to Katt Williams and kind of, talked it out, and Katt Williams said, forgave him and blah, 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 and then it was brought up again. And so Katt's on here to spread the truth and stuff on what he feels like everybody should know. My only thing that I don't like about when people do stuff like this is that, what's the purpose and what is it going to accomplish? Because in my opinion, if you got a beef with somebody, go to the person and have the beef. I mean, if you wanted to come on the podcast and talk all this stuff about individuals, why didn't you say, hey, I'll come on the podcast, but I want you to bring, the person I have a problem with on the podcast too. So we can just hash it out right there in public so everybody can understand what's going on. But he's not going to do that. And I think the motivation behind Katt going on this podcast is that he has a tour coming up. So, not to say that everything he said was a lie. And I just think that he's coming on there. He's going to draw attention to himself, which he did. The podcast blew up, and people are talking about it everywhere. And as the time I'm recording this episode, this is only about two or three, maybe over the week, the past weekend that this happened. So by the time you hear this, it'll be like probably 3 weeks that you hear this. Not, if you're a subscriber, you're going to hear it about 2 weeks from the time it actually happened. But by the time this episode is public, it'll be more like 3 weeks. So just my thought is that I don't understand what the purpose and what it's accomplished, other than brings attention to him for his upcoming tour, so people will want to go buy tickets and go see everything. And so it's like free I cannot say the words, but like free advertisement. It's negative, and some people are going to be rubbed the wrong way And some fans might even be rubbed the wrong way about him coming out and saying he said, but it's neither good or bad from that aspect because it's going to draw attention and he's going to get what he wants. Now, going back to the Friday thing, the one thing I was discussing with my friend tonight was Ice Cube and Ricky Smiley both came out, both responded to what Katt Williams said. And the way I understood it, straight from Ice Cube and Ricky Smiley, they confirmed it both. Now, they were two separate videos. It was one video, but the comments made by Ricky Smiley and Ice Cube were not made like they weren't in the same room, confirming or denying whatever. It was two different instances where Ricky Smiley debunked some of the things that Katt Williams was saying about the role of Money Mike, and then Cube even, debunked a lot of what Katt Williams said. But I think that Katt spoke the truth, but I think he elaborated and embellished how it actually happened. So you can look it up. Look up Ice Cube response to Katt Williams' claims, and there will be a video that will show him, or he'll be. I mean, he's not being interviewed. He just put a response out on his own. The argument that me and my friend got into, not argument, but discussion, I should say, was his opinion was he believes more of what Katt Williams saying over what Ice Cube and Ricky Smiley saying. My point of view was I can't say who's telling the truth, who's not, but I would tend to lean towards Ice Cube because he's the one that wrote and created and produced this movie. Now, yes, he has an alternative motive possibly to say, yeah, that's not true, that's not what happened, blah, 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 because he doesn't need to look bad. But I don't take Ice Cube, from what I've seen and watched interviews and stuff like that, I don't really take that vibe from him. But my friend had a different opinion. But that being said, that's what I want to talk about on the Katt Williams thing. When I come back, I want to talk about basically having an opinion, how you form that opinion, and how I feel, in my opinion, that you need to be able to see both sides of a situation or an argument to form your opinion. I'm going to do that right after. All right, so let's get into this whole opinion thing and how I have this thing about me where somebody can present a situation to me, or I can watch a video, whatever. I do this a lot on this podcast, where I can look at both sides of a situation or argument, and I can say, yeah, I understand this part, and I agree with this part over here, but up until a point, I disagree, blah, blah, and I might understand why somebody's done one thing and why the other person's done another. And then I form my opinion around that. Well, my friend is, like he likes to say, he's black. It's either black or white for him. And I like to say I live in the gray area a lot. I don't look at a lot of things at black and white. There was an example I gave him tonight that we'll say a mother of a child or a baby goes to Walmart because she doesn't have money, so she decides to go to Walmart to steal some formula to feed her baby, and she gets caught. And so I look at the situation and I see the side of the mother. I understand why she made that choice and what she did and why she did what she did. I see the side of the store or Walmart that you came in, you stole something that hurts this store, and there are consequences to that. And I get that. My only discretion would be, does she need to be held, not that she doesn't need to be held accountable, but does she need to get the maximum of punishment for what she did? I look at it like she needs to have a consequence, but the consequence doesn't necessarily have to ruin her life, right? Like, but when I say that I look at both sides of the situation, or I see both sides, then I can form my opinion. Because I could see a situation where I see both sides and go, nope, they got to be, you know, you know, throw the book at them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand you're justifying what you did, but your justification doesn't really, eliminate what your punishment or your um, consequence should be. So I look at a whole situation and I look at the circumstance and the content, uh, of what it is before I make an opinion. And my friend was so like, "Oh, you can't do that. You gotta have it one way or the other first. And so we brought up jury, going to having jury service. And I was a juror in a traffic ticket case. Because he goes, "Oh, you'll never be a juror with that attitude." I said, "Yes, I will." He goes, "Nobody's going to pick you." Well, but if I meet the criteria that they put in front of me and I say, "Okay, I'll be a juror," then yeah. But he was saying because I see both sides that, I wouldn't get picked. I'm not for one side or the other. And I just kept saying, you can't form an opinion unless you can see both sides and understand both sides. Sure, I could have said, well, lady, why didn't, before you went and stole the formula, why didn't you, try to get some money somehow? There's other ways of getting help for your baby. But sometimes some people do different, different desperate things at desperate times. So, with that being said, I was in traffic court being being one of the jurors. And one of the things, or there's several things that happened. One, the guy that got the ticket was representing himself, so he didn't get a lawyer or try to get one appointed to him or whatever. And he did couple of things. First thing he did, when he was able to question the police officer, he brought up the theory that everybody has, that a cop has a quota. And he goes, "Well, you only wrote me a ticket because you have a quota and you got to meet your quota." Well, as me and my brother have brought up, one, our father was a police officer, and plus we know we have several friends and stuff in the family that are police officers. And one officer says, "I don't have a a quota as in I got to write 50 something tickets, but I do have to write 10 tickets a week." Now, that doesn't mean 10 individual tickets. It means I could pull over one person and write them all 10 tickets. But that doesn't mean he's going to write 10 tickets every week for sure. But I look at logically, like if my part of my job is to write traffic tickets, and I haven't produced one traffic ticket in a while, any traffic tickets on a regular basis, then maybe I'm not doing my job. So, but there's not a quota like you have to have these many, there's necessarily a big amount or many. And just because you got caught doing something wrong doesn't mean he's only writing you a ticket because he has a quota. So that little comment I didn't like. The other thing I didn't like was that, not that I didn't like, but in his defense, well, another question to the cop was what the guy with the ticket was trying to brought up in his defense was there was actually two trucks of the similar make, pretty close. He was close to another truck of a similar model. His argument was, "Well, how did you know I was the one speeding?" Um, and then man, he said in his defense, he said, "Well, I was going 5 miles over the speed limit, and normally, they'll give you 5 miles over." Now, remember, I said that, okay? Because once we heard everything, we went back and to deliberate. I think I'm saying that right. What we just heard, and so We go back and we start discussing everything we heard. And at first, everybody, or mostly everybody, I should say it like that. Mostly everybody wanted to just to give him a break and let dismiss the ticket. But then I said, well, wait a minute. Now this is where I see both sides. Partly see both sides, but this is where I kind of really take one side, or not really take one side, but I see it kind of black and white, sort of. But anyway, I said, wait a minute. I said, why? What is he fighting? Is he fighting the speeding ticket, as in how fast he was going, or is he fighting the ticket itself that he's claiming that he wasn't speeding? And mostly everybody's opinion was he's fighting it that he wasn't speeding. I said, well, there's a problem in that then. And they said, well, what is it? And I said, he admitted in his own defense that he was speeding. The part where he said, I was going 5 miles over the speed limit, but y'all, they usually give you that. By that statement alone, he just admitted that he was speeding. He's not arguing that he wasn't going 77. He's arguing that he wasn't speeding at all, and he just admitted it. And when I brought that up, most of them they kind of tried to, yeah, but I said, no. Though if he admits it, then he's admitted it. He says he's guilty. He's guilty of speeding, is what I kept saying. Like, he didn't say he was guilty of speeding at 77 or whatever it was. He just said he's guilty of speeding. And so we asked the bailiff, I guess you could say it, that's who it was, or the officer or whatever, to go ask the judge what his penalty would, what's the threshold of penalty or whatever. They came back, they said it, what the maximum was and what the minimum was, and we ended up giving him, I think, like the minimum. It was like only like $150, that he had to pay or whatever. And the part that I didn't tell my friend tonight when we were talking about this, of this particular story, was that, so we go back into the courtroom and we tell, the judge, we give the judge our verdict. It says, okay, well, you're, found, blah, 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 and sentence the guy. And he tells me, or us, the jury, and the plaintiff or the defendant, whichever he was, he basically told everybody they were dismissed and sent us all out of the courtroom at the same time to the same, go see they told the jurors to go see the clerk at the front to make sure we had all the correct information so we would get or maybe we went to go pick up our pay or whatever. And so now we're out in the hall with the guy that we just said that he was guilty. And I'm kind of going, why did this just happen? You could have dismissed the jury, sent us out, got us out of there, and then sent him out. Not that he was a murderer or anything, but he started laying into us. And he goes, man, I can't believe that. And I just looked at him. I said, dude, by your own admission, you said you were speeding. That's what the ticket's for. It's a speeding ticket. If you would have fought the ticket as in, I wasn't going that fast. And that's all you had to say. I wasn't going that fast. And, just stayed on that aspect of it instead of saying, well, I believe, I believe or I was going only 5 miles over. Then 5 miles over is still speeding and it's still against the law. So I have this thing where I see, going back to seeing both sides and not being, so black and white on things. And it really irritates my friend that I play. It's not the friend that I live with. It's the friend that I play online with on GTA, on PlayStation. And I've mentioned him before. He's an older gentleman, and he's older than me by, I think, 12 years or something like that. And anyway, he's very set in his ways and very black and white when it comes to taking sides and stuff. And I just from the Katt Williams thing to seeing both sides of a situation. I just wanted to kind of talk about that tonight on this episode. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. And all I can say to you is try to see both sides of a story before you jump to a conclusion or an opinion. Try to see the whole picture before we judge something. And I am not I can be guilty of quick to judge, but there's a lot of times that my first reaction is not my last, and when I start getting more information and trying to see both sides of a situation, sometimes that changes. Oh, and going back to the jury thing, I told Ed, I said, look, even if I was picked by, prosecution or the defense, because I was leaning more towards, that side, whatever side it is, doesn't mean I couldn't be flipped. They might ask me, hey, how do you feel about this, and this, and I might give the answers to where it looks like I might lean towards, guilty, and they go ahead and say they pick me. But then once the case gets rolling, maybe I don't. That's the whole point of a jury, is to decide based on everything that you hear both sides of an argument, to decide if you're going to lean the way you originally thought you might lean. So it again, I just thought it was funny how he kept arguing with me, or arguing, discussing, whatever. That you can't look at both sides to form an opinion, and I'm like, yes, you kind of have to do that. You have to. Like at least that's the way I form my opinions. At least I try. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, you should go and check out the website, theletsrollpodcast.com. Send us feedback. Get all this good stuff that we're putting out now. And as always, until next time, let's roll.
You're listening to the Let's Roll podcast with host Double R. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media. Find links in the description below or at theletsrollpodcast.com.